Big up everybody and welcome to B.M.G.T. My name's Philly2109 and I'm just going to give you a recap on Wonderman. Now, I found this one of out of the latest Marvel ones here. I found this one of the better ones. It was actually a bit different for what I was expecting. Where most of them are action packed, Wonderman is a series inside a series, I found, where it was more about character development than it is about the action. And the storytelling in Wonderman I found very good in the aspect of it's a slow burn. So the first two episodes here is the dynamics for Trevor and what he did straight after we see him at the end of Shang-Chi and him coming over to America. And when he gets into America, into California, he's arrested by damage control. And we see how they manipulate him by giving him two choices. Either he goes to jail for his crimes as the Mandarin, or he essentially works for them and goes undercover to try and um, get a person of interest to them, which is Simon. And Simon is a actor where we see at the beginning where he's very opinionated in his performances. And the first time we see him, he's actually in a role where he doesn't agree with what he's basically been asked to do. And he likes to put his authority across onto it, and he ends up losing the job from that. So it's a case of sometimes it's best to observe than to open your mouth and say anything. And as the episode progresses more and more, we're watching how it's not just in his acting career, but it's in his personal relationships. When he gets home, his girlfriend dumps him because essentially he keeps things from her, so he's not very truthful to her. And from then, he meets Trevor, and him and Trevor build up a bromance where they're both actors looking for roles, and Trevor comes along with Trevor gives him advice in how to breathe before he basically talks in his roles, and they get a role they look for a brand new role in the new Wonderman series. Now, I think it's what I found interesting in this Marvel production is that a lot of the people that we have in real life, like Jason Cad, who is the voice of going out my head now. But yeah, he's in Frozen. And quite a few real life actors are actually in the Marvel universe. So it's like you've merged Marvel with the real world. And nothing explains it more than episode 4, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But the relationship between Trevor and Simon is the groundwork of where it all begins for me. Now, episode 2 is where we get to see Simon essentially getting his powers, and we see him lose control. And when he loses control, he blows his entire apartment. And you can actually, and it's one of the trailer ones here, but when you see the scene of when he's sitting on the chair and he loses control, it's like everybody feels that emotion there where they lose control at one point in their life. And you can actually look at him and you realize that he does it on screen. And episode 3 is more development on that. But I found the best episode of the series, episode 4. And that is the Doorman storyline and why superheroes aren't allowed to do work in the acting industry. And Doorman is essentially a doorman at the beginning. He works on a club. He works with the club in the nightclub scene. He's made friends with the owner, and James Cad is there as well. Now, at one moment, all the people are locked into the nightclub and they can't get out. So Bagman, so Doorman stands there and eventually lets all the people get out of the nightclub safely. And because he does that for Jason Cad basically takes him along and offers him a role in working for him. And as he's making a movie, he actually gives him a role in the movie. And this is where Doorman establishes himself, ding dong, and he becomes this massive superstar. But because he's very linear, he's only got like two phrases, ding dong, and it's a doorman. People after a while get sick of it because they're like, oh, it's just repetitive. He's not actually moving on. So essentially his fame starts diminishing. So he starts to spiral, and it's only later on that Cad makes another movie and he wants him to star in that role of helping him escape into a bank scene. So as they're in the security van, he's already not feeling well. But that's when Cad jumps into it. It's when Dad throws the money into him. It goes through him like a portal into the other side. And essentially, as Cad jumps into him, he gets stuck in there. And we never see him again. And from that incident, and from the amount of money that it took to basically essentially cover that up, it became too high for superheroes to become actors because you just never know what's capable of happening. And for the amount of insurance that it would pay, it would become astronomical. So they said basically that they made a law where heroes cannot be superheroes anymore. But what I do like about this episode as well is that they explain that Doorman is a mutant and his abilities were given to him by Roxxon Company, which means that we've not only got a link into one of my series that I do love, which is Cloak and Dagger, and the Roxxon, and it bridges in from Spider-Man as well. And hopefully we'll hear more of Roxxon, when we're watching Daredevil. But episode 4, I said, was the pinnacle. From episode 4 onwards, it's well worth watching because episode 5 is another big one for me. And that is when Simon uses his powers to save Trevor because of Trevor's influence as the Mandarin, which we will see through the whole series. There's so many references to the Mandarin. And when you watch how Trevor basically is followed by hitmen and Simon has to save them in the alleyway, and then they're caught by Jaden on his camera phone, and he basically manipulates them into trying to get a bike back from Jose. And really and truly, they're really mates. But when they go there, you're thinking that this guy is a drug dealer. But as they go on, Simon and Trevor realize that he's basically selling candy. And that's when the hitmen who were after Trevor in the alleyway end up at the guy's yard. Now, when they go there, what happens is that they get Jaden from the car and they go towards the house. When they see as they're going towards the house, one of the neighbors sees them, so they call the police. When the police come, they raid the house and everyone of them spread out, and you watch the way that because Simon's one of those people that he doesn't trust people in his life. He's had a lot of burns in his life, and because he's a mutant and because his powers, you'll hear later on that his powers were the reason that his home burnt down, and his mum essentially took him to the doctors, and when they went to the doctors, they realized there was nothing wrong with him physically. And from there, we see more of Simon's development with his dad, because his dad died, and that's a massive factor in his life. You see more of the dynamics of him and his brother Eric, who later on becomes a villain in his own right, which hopefully we will see more when we watch more of Wonderman. And we watch the dynamics of how he gets the role of Wonderman, which is basically a role that was made for him from the movie director, and by the way, when you get to see the story of Hollywood behind the scenes, I think it's Joey Pantoliano, who was in Baby's Day Out, because they take so many references from his bad movies, and Trevor and him have a massive dispute because Trevor finds him replacing him in multiple roles. So there's animosity between the two of those. But as I said, that episode when they rumbled the house, yeah, that is funny towards the end of it. Episode 6 is The Reporter. Now, because they get the role of Wonderman, which is a TV series in itself, which is a bit like, if you remember The Truman Show, that kind of stuff, where it's a movie inside a movie. When you watch The Reporter episode, and this is a Hollywood reporter a New York reporter who goes to Hollywood and basically puts her thoughts and stuff on productions of the superhero of movies and film stars in the movies, and she can either make or break a Hollywood star. That's how known she is in the game. And so, because Simon's already not trusting people, he's thinking that his ex-girl would talk smack about him, the one that dumped him in the beginning, but you find out that the real reason that she dumped him was because she felt that he was hiding stuff from her, so not being truthful to her, or his brother. Both of them didn't say a word. They actually gave Simon so much love, and he wasn't expecting that bit. But it's when she puts Trevor under the microscope and she talks about the Mandarin, and you see Trevor lose it with the reporter. That's when Simon starts to smell a rat and realize that Trevor might be working for damage control. Now, damage control we saw in Spider-Man, and we saw in other Marvel productions before that. So we're going to be talking about those hopefully later on when we're talking about Spider-Man episodes. But I digress. Episode 7 is when the real stuff happens, where Trevor's cover is blown altogether and he admits to Simon exactly what he was doing and working for damage control, and basically in a sticky position where he was either going to have to save himself, but he hadn't told damage control the limits, the capability of Simon's powers. So as Simon hears more and more that he's being used by Trevor, Simon decides to go outside, walk in the alleyway. As he walks in the alleyway, he loses full control and blows up the set of Wonderman. And as we see the set explode at the end of it, we think this is Simon's cover blown, basically, and damage control all over him. So, episode 8, like I said before, this is groundbreaking because with Trevor, we've seen Trevor in Iron Man as the Mandarin. We've seen him in Shang-Chi. But I feel with this one, it fleshes out his character so much more. And it gives people the chance to see Ben Kingsley basically excel in a role that was made for him. And then episode 8 is Return of the Mandarin. Because of the explosion at the movie studio, Trevor ends up taking the blame for that production, for the destruction, to try and take the damage control away from Simon. And by doing so, he basically says that he's the Mandarin and he authorized it as a terrorist act of terrorism on the studio. And like I said, with Simon, at the end of this episode, I found that what he did is he copied one of the security agents, copied their mannerisms like a good actor does, watch and observe them from the shadows, and at the end of it, he basically got his way in the Max prison where Trevor was, because this IMAX prison, I want to see some of the people in there, because I think this is the same one that we see in the Hulk, where they send Red Hulk at the end of it, and that's the raft. And like I said, there's going to be a lot more Marvel productions later. And I'm going to talk more about this a little bit later in the video, but we're just going to do the first 3 episodes first. So after this one, after Simon infiltrates the Max prison, he breaks Simon out, he breaks Trevor out, and basically flies off, which is his mutant ability. Now, I was just saying this a little bit earlier, so I'm going to say it now. This series follows on I think this series was affected by the writer's strike, and the timing of it was placed. I think it should have come, around the time of Miss Marvel, early Miss Marvel series 1. It's another one that's been hit by the time delay with the writer's strike. And you can see it for yourself when you watch it. And it's well worth watching, because if you're looking for something different from more action-packed Marvel productions, and this is the one for you, because it's more grounded and more human-based for people out there who like it gritty and less action but more drama. And for me, it's one of the best ones out there. But like I said, I digress from the fact that this series, time-wise, you can see that it's been wickedly delayed. But I want to know your thoughts. What do you think of this series when you watch it? Because like I said, if you're looking for something that's less action-packed, then this is what you want. So I need some thoughts and theories, and please feel free to write them at the end of this video. So thank you very much. Bye.